Coming up next on KPBS Evening Edition, California's governor wants to tax the wealthy. And as more state inmates find their way to county jails, thousands of state prison employees and parole officers have been sent pink slips.
We'll tell you how many of those employees are here in San Diego County. And Charger fans may be reluctant to pay for a new football stadium for a team in last place. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Joanne Ferrian.
And I'm Dwayne Brown.
KPBS News has learned nearly 800 pink slips were sent to corrections employees in San Diego in October because of a shift in inmate responsibility. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation confirmed the notices were sent to 721 employees at Donovan State Prison and another 71 to parole agents and other employees in the region. The CDCR says California's new realignment law means fewer corrections officers and parole agencies will be needed to oversee state inmates. Instead, many newly convicted nonviolent criminals will be sent to county jail. A total of 26,000 notices were sent to CDCR employees across the state. Now, many inmates released on probation will also now be supervised by the county. San Diego County's chief probation officer told KPBS yesterday the shift of responsibility is huge.
Right now, we have about 93,000 individuals on active parole in this state. By the time realignment is in place, that number will be about 40,000. So 53,000 statewide parolees will be shifted to probation departments up and down the state. So the state absolutely will have to downsize.
The CDCR says not all those receiving the pink slips will lose their jobs. All employees with less than 10 years experience have been put on notice. Now, Jenkins says he plans to recruit state probation officers to work for the county because the shift has created many openings in his department. However, county probation officers earn less than state parole agents.
Occupy San Diego protesters have lost their legal challenge to set up tents at the Civic Center Plaza downtown. The protesters wanted a judge to forbid police from banning their tents from the site. The law makes it illegal to put any vegetation or object in a public space. The protesters say the law is too vague and say police are using it selectively. The judge denied their request for a temporary restraining order. He says there are other channels the occupiers can use to spread their message.
One of the Occupy movement's demands is to tax the rich, and Governor Jerry Brown is expected to unveil a ballot measure to do just that. The Associated Press says the proposal would increase the state sales tax along with taxes on wealthy Californians. The combination of income and sales tax increases would raise about $7 billion and expire in 2016. Democrats and labor allies who support Brown say they believe voters would support taxing themselves and the rich if it means saving teachers and police jobs. Republicans note that California voters have turned down the last 7 tax increase proposals.
San Diego medical researchers have made the world's first movie inside a living pancreas. KPBS Science and Technology reporter Peggy Pico joins us with more on this remarkable video. Peggy, tell us why this is important to people with diabetes.
Well, Dwayne, it's very important for people with diabetes and people who may get diabetes. Now, researchers at the La Jolla Institute for Allergy and Immunology made a movie. It is the first time on their video that anyone has been able to see the actual start and cause of type 1 diabetes as it's happening. Scientists from around the world are commenting on the impact of this video and how it will change the way they look at preventing type 1 diabetes, which usually affects children and young adults.
Well, sounds great. You have some clips from the diabetes video. Explain what we're about to see.
Well, the video takes place inside a pancreas of a mouse that's been under anesthesia. It's alive, but it's in surgery. The pancreas is an organ that produces insulin, which is needed to avoid diabetes. And as you'll be able to see on this video right here, like ants that attract and devour their food, you're looking at immune cells that are the purple cells with the little tails attacking insulin cells. Those are the green cells that produce the insulin. Similar to ants, those little trails that they're leaving, ants leave those trails so that their soldier ants follow them back to the food source. Well, the purple immune cells are doing the same thing. They are leaving a path for other immune cells to follow to destroy the insulin.
And how did the scientists produce this video, Peggy?
Dwayne, a specialized photon microscope was placed directly into the pancreas, onto the pancreas during surgery on that mouse. Now, no one has been able to do that before.
And I guess the final question is, what do they plan to do with this?
That's probably the most important part. Now that scientists can see how the immune cells attack the insulin cells inside the pancreas, they'll want to find a way to stop them from doing just that. From how do they get inside to the organ, and how are they able to stop them from doing it. And that will actually change the way that type 1 diabetics are treated, and also may lead to a new way to prevent the disease in the first place.
KPBS Science and Technology reporter Peggy Pico.
An elaborate plan to sink a dead whale off San Diego's coast almost failed. Sign on San Diego reports the dead fin whale that was washed ashore last week almost didn't sink. It took 14,000 pounds of steel to send the pregnant whale down into the Scripps submarine canyon. That's about 6,000 pounds more steel than initially estimated. Marine biologists will observe the whale carcass to see how an ecosystem develops around it. A delegation of Afghan military leaders from Helmand province has spent the last 3 days on Camp Pendleton. They're getting a look at leadership training for non-commissioned officers. They also visited a public school on base and met with Border Patrol agents to discuss border security.
Did you know the California community college system is the largest in the country, with more than 2.5 million students a year? As the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan wind down, more and more of those students are military veterans. Today, San Diego hosted a veteran summit to help increase awareness among faculty, counselors, and staff.
More than 200 people from community colleges around the state heard about the needs of veteran students, how to support their transition to civilian careers while dealing with psychological disorders.
A summit like this is about hope. A summit like this is really about how can I move beyond PTSD, move beyond TBI, move beyond those issues to create a life for myself out in the world, make a contribution to my community.
About 80% of California's returning vets who use their educational benefits will do so at a community college like this one.
This former Marine sergeant served 8 years before getting wounded. He's working with veterans and attending school. He says it's an uphill climb for most.
And being military, we don't really like to talk about it, and we don't really like to open up and ask for help. It's just that pride and that I can push through it. But there is a hope when you can find another fellow veteran, and he or she can sit down with you and go, hey, I get it.
We as a community send our young people off to war. We as a community need to bring them back, welcome them back, and support them.
Although military veterans have access to the GI Bill to help pay for college, they could face funding cuts next year, just like civilian students seeking a higher education. The Chargers play Jacksonville on Monday night, and some sports writers say it may be the team's last Monday Night Football appearance for a while. Joanna's talking about it with her guests over at the Evening Edition Roundtable.
After the Chargers' 6th straight loss last Sunday, the consensus is that Norv Turner is gone, along with the team's season. My next guest goes even further, suggesting General Manager A.J. Smith should be sent packing too. Jay Paris is sports columnist for the North County Times. He joins me to talk about the Chargers' losses and what this could mean for the future of a new stadium. Jay, thanks for being here.
Sure.
So how bad has this season been for the Chargers?
Well, it's been pretty bad, and I think what makes it so bad was last year they went 9-7, didn't make the playoffs, and that was sold as an aberration, and we're going to get them next year, and we made these changes, and you know this baby's going to fly now. And then the very first kickoff of the season has returned for a touchdown, and it's kind of been going downhill since. You know they've had some injuries, but every team has injuries. You can't use that as an excuse. The talent level isn't quite what they've been selling. And the fans are mad, and the fans are frustrated. And what was once really an elite Charger team, it was among some of the best in the NFL, is in last place, is among the dregs, and things aren't going well.
So you mentioned the talent, the coaching. Obviously, let's talk about the coaching now. What happens to Norv Turner?
You know, he'll probably leave. You know, he's had 5 years here. You know, he's had a good swing at the pinata here and hadn't quite hit it. And that buys into it, or leads into as well. Marty Schottenheimer was fired after a 14-2 season, and while he did lose the playoff game, the hiring of Norv Turner was never warmly embraced by the fans. He was a 2-time failure in Washington and Oakland. So he was kind of fighting it early, you know. So whatever equity he did have with the fans, it dwindled pretty quickly. And, you know, they got to go a different direction. Something's not clicking. And, hey, it happens. That's sports. Just like life. You make bad decisions. You made a bad hire. You know, it'd be worse to keep it going. So they'll probably be looking for a new coach next year.
What about A.J. Smith? Now, you mentioned in your column, or your whole column is about, hey, he's got to go too. How come?
He's responsible. You know, the signature move, the signature hire of his tenure with the Chargers was hiring Norv Turner when everybody else said, you know, this is the wrong guy to hire. And Norv's a nice man, you know, there's nothing personal for sure. But A.J. stuck his chest out and said, no, I know better. You know, he's never coached the Chargers, and we're going to lead him. He's going to lead our team. 5 years later, it's just been a gradual erosion of the team. And not only did Mr. Smith hire Norv, but he's also constructed these rosters and through his drafts, and his drafts haven't been that great the last 3 or 4 years. So, to put it mildly, the product has grown stale. And I think if you're selling, you know, they're going to have to sell this team somewhere next year. They're going to either sell it to San Diego to try to get some tax money, or go up to L.A. and try to, you know, swim in that big pond. So, you know, with a fresh hierarchy, fresh coach, fresh general manager. And I also want to mention, you know, Mr. Smith's persona is very arrogant and very brash and very gruff. You know, he's not a real warm and fuzzy guy, which is fine too. But I think the fans have tired of that as well, especially here in San Diego.
Well, let's talk about a new stadium now. What are the chances when you've got a season like this that they can sell themselves to San Diego? Are fans just going to say, go ahead and leave? Where are you going to go?
Yeah, you hope that wouldn't be the case. And I think it does come into play because when the Padres built their stadium at Petco Park, you know, they went to the World Series leading up to the vote. And, you know, talk about some great free advertising. And it's going to be tough, you know, let's face it, this is San Diego, and tax increases don't fly here for a lot more important things than stadiums. And when you're coming off a bad season, and just the acrimony that kind of surrounds the organization, the franchise, you know, every team loses, but if you still feel they're part of your fabric of your life, and you can hang with them a little bit. But I've never, since '92, since I've been here, I've never seen the disconnect between the Charger fans and the Charger team. It's like it's almost a us against them relationship, where it should be, hey, even though we did lose, we're in this boat together.
Is that a lack of leadership? And where could leadership come from now to sort of bring the two back together again?
Well, I think so. It's, you know, like, it's easy to be a leader when everybody's patting on you on the back, and, you know, and the confetti's flying out of the cannon and everything's going good. But during this 6-game losing streak, we haven't heard from Mr. Smith. You know, during the 6-game losing streak, Dean Spanos, the owner, hasn't come out and addressed anybody, and they're hiding under rocks. I mean, you request to talk to them, but, you know, they're not available. And I just think maybe what they say wouldn't mean much on the field, but Charger fans want to know, hey, they feeling our pain too. You know, they care just as much as we do. And, you know, just a reassuring talk. You know, we don't like losing either, but we're going to get this thing back together. Next year's going to be fine, and we're going to, you know, start flying again. But you don't hear that. It's nothing but crickets over there.
You mentioned L.A., and I know months back, before this, the 6 losses in a row, we spoke with various Chargers officials, you know, with the mayor, and there was a lot of talk about, well, they could go to L.A., could go to L.A. That was sort of hanging over our heads. Is that a real threat given this losing streak? I mean, do you have a team that maybe doesn't have that option? Yeah,
I think what you have to look at, a team going to L.A., what teams can get out of their lease the easiest. And the Chargers certainly fall in that category. You know, it costs $20 million something exit fee, but that's dwindled drastically over the last couple of years. So they're more intent on getting a team, and then we'll fix it up and we'll go from there. You know, if they lost 6, that was when they were down in San Diego. You know, now they're coming home to L.A. is how they'll sell it, where they started in 1960. And if they can get a team, they'll worry about next year's win and loss records and not last year's.
Finally, Jay, when's the next game?
Monday Night Football in Jacksonville.
Okay, Jay Ferris, thanks so much for being here.
Pleased.
We've got a musical interlude coming up in just a moment. But first, a big donation surprises some music students in Claremont today. And we'll talk with the director of Jesus Christ Superstar. It's at the La Jolla Playhouse and will soon be headed to Broadway. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
brings back the sound of the 60s. Join your hosts, Davy Jones and Peter Noon, for this all-new PBS special.
Tuesday at 8 on KPBS.
I'm Jeffrey Brown. On the next News Hour, a conversation with former President Bill Clinton, plus the analysis of Shields and Brooks. That's Friday on the PBS News Hour. The American people have named PBS
the most trusted source of news
and public affairs
for the 8th year in a row.
Trust.
The American people have spoken. Thank you.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
Students at a San Diego Performing Arts School got a big surprise today. $25,000 worth of instruments were donated to the Creative and Performing Arts Middle School in Claremont. The donation was made by Fidelity Investments.
Well, when we started the year here, our program grew by about 100 students, and that left us about 100 instruments short. And so we have spent the entire school year up to date trying to find instruments, and we're still about 25 instruments short.
I'm happy because of all the budget cuts, our school couldn't afford it, and it was nice for them to donate it.
The school is trying to get an instrument for every one of its music students. Someday, one of those students might make it to Broadway, just like Joanne's guests over at the Evening Edition Roundtable.
The musical Jesus Christ Superstar has been staged thousands of times and adapted for the screen twice. My next guest is challenged with making this well-known musical fresh again. But first, take a look.
Jesus Christ, superstar, do you think you're what they say you are? Jesus, tell me I only want to know.
Des McAnuff is the director of Jesus Christ Superstar, which is currently running at the La Jolla Playhouse. He directed the critically acclaimed run at Stratford's Shakespeare Festival, where he is artistic director. Thanks, Des, for being here.
Thank you.
So why did you want to revive a musical like Jesus Christ Superstar?
There were a couple of reasons. One is that we have a very large and very talented, eclectic acting company, and they do classical plays, and I'm talking about 120 people, and I felt that we had the muscles to do this, and I'd known Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice for a long time, and started talking to them about doing this piece back in the mid-90s. So it's been, there for me for a long time. And I also felt that this is a good time to do this piece. I think it's pertinent, to do a piece that deals with spirituality and politics. We have the technology now to make a story like this intimate. And so there were really a whole host of reasons for wanting to do this right now.
The fact that people are so familiar with this music, did that make it tougher for you? Did it make it easier to sort of come up with a new, fresher version of it?
I think people have an emotional relationship. I think many people have an emotional relationship with this music. And I think that's an advantage. When they come into the theater, they're already inclined to go on an emotional journey. I think the challenge is to take them someplace that they don't necessarily expect to go. One of the things that's surprising about this, about Superstar for all of us, is the extent of the emotional reaction that it seems to enlist from an audience. I've had people around me, I'm not exaggerating, sobbing during the arrest, and I think that has to do with the story, of course, the greatest story ever told. and it has to do with Andrew Lloyd Webber's spectacular score, and I hope it has a little bit to do with the fact that we're taking a fresh look at it.
I heard in an interview with you, a CBC interview actually, where you said somebody once told you you make musicals for people who don't like musicals.
Ah, well, I think there's some truth to that. I mean, I have a great respect for music theater of all kinds. I just opened Faust at the Metropolitan Opera, and I have obviously a great relationship, or a great passion for classical music. But I don't necessarily like those sorts of musicals that make your cavities ache. I don't like that sort of. I don't like that kind of insincere, cutesy thing that musicals can be. So I like musicals that are well acted, that I can be proud to take my 21-year-old daughter to. And so that's what I mean by that. I think musicals can have, some substance too. They don't have to be just pablum.
You also mentioned earlier Andrew Lloyd Webber. Now, he saw Jesus Christ Superstar at Stratford.
Right.
So when he was in the audience, when he's watching this, how did that make you feel?
I was reasonably confident he was going to enjoy it simply because the audience response had been so overwhelming. But, you never know. And I had taken, there were a couple of things that I had messed with a little bit, and I wasn't sure how Andrew would react to that. But he was joyous and completely supportive, thank God. In fact, we opened it, and I think Andrew was in the theater coming over from London within a week. He immediately came to see it because we had such a strong critical reaction to it.
Now, in that same interview where you talked about the musical for the non-musical goer, you didn't know at that time that this was going to Broadway, and now you know it is.
Yeah.
So how will life change for you once it goes to Broadway?
I have an apartment in New York, and I have a long-running show on 52nd Street called Jersey Boys, and as it turns out, Jesus Christ Superstar is going across the street at to the Neil Simon Theater on the south side of 52nd Street. So I'm looking forward to having my own table at Gallagher's the Steakhouse on that block.
Is it crazy for you to think about this?
It's great, and I have had more than one show running there in the past, but never on the same block. So that's going to be very exciting.
Well, Des, it's been great having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jesus Christ Superstar runs at the La Jolla Playhouse through December 31st. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
Tuesday at 10 on KPBS.
Hi, I'm Elsa Sevilla. If you find yourself hearing about a great program on KPBS after it's already aired, we have a solution. Get notified about your favorite TV programs on KPBS before they air by subscribing to the TV Highlights email alert. This daily email will feature the best programs coming up right here on KPBS TV, so you can make a date to tune in or plan to record it. It's easy to register. Just go to kpbs.org/alerts.
Welcome back to the Public Square and KPBS Evening Edition. Yesterday, in an interview with Mac Jenkins, the head of probation in San Diego County, we reported County District 3 had the lowest number of released inmates on probation. In our interview, we weren't sure where County 3 was, and in fact, I speculated it may be somewhere near Hillcrest. Boy, was I wrong. Hillcrest is actually in the city of San Diego's District 3, not the county's District 3. Take a look at this map. Now, there have been about 400 inmates released on probation to San Diego County under realignment in the past 2 months. 5% are located in District 3. That's Supervisor Pam Slater Price's district, which includes Del Mar, Rancho Penasquitos, and parts of Escondido. And as you can see, the numbers are more evenly spread out in the remaining 4 districts. We also told you that people living in City Heights had concerns that a disproportionate number of parolees were living in their neighborhood. About 7% of all parolees released in the past couple of months live in City Heights. We want to show you a video now. This comes from our partners from the Media Arts Center's Teen Producers Project. The Teen Producers introduce us to Jocelyn Mendoza. She says growing up in City Heights makes you tough.
My name is Jocelyn. I go to Diego Hills Charter. I'm 16 and I live here in City Heights. You know, you grow up here and you're raised here. You grow up to be a tough girl. If you're a girl, you have to be tough. If you're a guy, you have to be tough. I can't think of a day that I walk out of my house and I'm walking to the park or wherever and I don't get harassed by a guy. It's something normal for me. You just live in this comfort zone, I guess, where everything's bad, but as long as you know how to defend yourself or whatever, like, you think it's okay. We were talking about the AB 109. They might not be sex offenders, but they are like drug offenders and thieves. Maybe the crime rates are going to go up in City Heights. Maybe they'll stay the same, but, you know, I'm personally really scared because I know it is going to make an impact some way, somehow.
You can comment on this story by following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and of course you can always email me directly, jferrian@kpbs.org. And now Dwayne has a recap of tonight's top stories.
Pink slips have been sent to hundreds of state corrections workers in San Diego County. KPBS has learned 800 layoff notices were sent out last month. Prison officials say California's new realignment law means fewer personnel are needed. And a judge has turned down Occupy San Diego's request for a restraining order against the police department. The protesters wanted the judge to let them put their tents back up in the Civic Center Plaza. You can watch and comment on any of the stories you saw tonight on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night and a great weekend. We leave you with a look at the forecast.